So which is it? Is a drawer or a shelf a better option in a kitchen cabinet? We're going to talk about the pros and cons of each. And in this episode number 8, we're going to go ahead and build out this cabinet with shelves and drawers. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Jared, and I spent 6 months of every free moment I had outside of my normal 40-hour work week to go ahead and completely remodel my kitchen. So with that, let's get into it and talk about drawers and shelves. The IKEA system allows you to customize where you put the drawers, which I think is key in using drawers and how you actually make them work for you. Here I'm just testing out the different drawer faces, where they're going to align and hit and how it's going to work. While I build these drawers, let me go over a few pros of why I think drawers are really great. One, you can put things in drawers and you don't have to move everything to get to the back of whatever is in the back of the drawer. With a shelf, when you try to get to things back behind the shelf, that's where things can get a little messy. You can knock things over. It's not so great. I personally believe that whatever you have in the back of a shelf, you're probably never going to use or never going to get to, which could be good if that is the purpose of those things. Maybe you reach them once a year, then that's perfect. A shelf is great. But for the most part, a drawer, you can always see what's in the back every single time. All you have to do is pull it out and you can see everything that's in that space. But with a shelf, you have to dig around. So now I'm going to talk about a few cons of the drawers, and one is when you put your drawers in, depending on the spacing between them, that's all you can fit in there. And sometimes that can be difficult. Maybe you set up the drawer system and you find out that all the spices that you have will not fit in there, or your vinegar bottles will not fit in there because they're too tall, or whatever it is. So that's something you have to plan out ahead of time and really understand how tall of items you're going to put in there. All right, so the other con of the drawer is if it's up too high, you can't see in it. So drawers work best when they're down low enough that you can see inside of them. Otherwise, they might be completely useless unless you get a stool to stand on to see what's inside. So the con is if it's too high, you can't see in it. Here is the last con that I think is really important to consider when you're building these cabinets, especially if they're going to be for a pantry or, something you get into a lot. You do have to open the doors completely on the cabinet before you can pull those drawers out. So something to think about, if you don't like opening the doors and then opening the drawers, you have to do 2 actions to actually get to something, where if you just have shelves, you open the door and you reach right in. It's a small consideration. I still prefer the drawer for the most part, but it is something that, you might want to think about. right, so let's go over the pros of the drawer again. Hey, you know, what's great is once you organize that drawer, it's fixed, it's there. So every time you need it, you pull it out, grab what you want, put it back, so it stays organized. The other thing is you can get to everything that's in that area. So even if it's way in the back, you're not gonna knock over a bunch of stuff just to get to it, or have to remove things to get to the back of that drawer. Okay, so let's recap the cons. You know, if you have a drawer that's too high, you can't see in it, so that's not going to help you out. And the other major con of the drawers is that every time you have to get to them, you have to open that cabinet door all the way open to be able to pull out that drawer. So let's talk about the pros and cons of a shelf. So some of them are already covered in the first part, but the pros for a shelf is that if they're up high, you can see and get into those things. With a drawer, you cannot. The other pro of the shelf is once you open that cabinet door, it's right there. You don't have to do a second action like pulling a drawer out to get what you need. And the cons are basically an inverse of the pros for the drawer. So the cons are if you need something in the back of the shelf, you have to remove things to get to it or knock things over. So not great. So all the time you're organizing and reorganizing what's on that shelf every time you need something in the back. As you can tell, a lot of the pros and cons on both really depend on what you're using it for and where it's located and configured in your cabinet. So something to consider as you configure your cabinets is, can I see it? What am I going to put in it? And so on and so forth. So that way you can build a system that has both drawers and shelves to get you what you need in your kitchen. In conclusion, I'm going to say that the drawer is the far superior option in most things in these cabinets, except for when it's overhead and you can't see in it, or if it's a shallow cabinet, that's another thing that's decent, or if you're in the corner cabinet, because there is not a great way to get a turntable in there that really makes sense, then I'm going to say shelves are good for the corner cabinet as well. But for everything else, I really do prefer the drawer. It allows you to stay organized all the time, every time. You know where things are at. They're easy to get to. I really do like the drawers a lot. All right, and here's one bonus thing to think about when you're deciding whether you're going to go with shelves or drawers. Look, the drawers do cost a lot more money than just getting shelves. So something to consider: if your budget's tight, you may just have to go with shelves, which is great. With these IKEA units, you can go with shelves and come back and put drawers in later if and when you have the money, or maybe you choose not to, and that's great too. So that's another thing to consider, is the cost. All right, if you stuck around this long, I hope you found some value in this, and if you could give me a like or subscribe, that would be fantastic. I would also love to hear what you think, whether you prefer shelves or drawers. Throw some comments down there below and tell me what you're thinking. In the next episode, we're going to build this over the fridge cabinet, and it's got some features that are pretty cool and that you don't typically see on cabinets. So I want to show those to you. Just click that video right there and check it out.